Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this very important and long overdue session of the Higher Purpose Forum on understanding the feminine aspect of our Heavenly Parent. This is a program that was organized, I'm very delighted to say, by Daniela Weatherall, who's with us today as our chat moderator. And we have a great panel, which I'm very excited about. We've put a lot of thought into this program, and I hope it leads to further discussion. It's very a great honor for a Higher Purpose Forum to have these events co-hosted by the HJ International Graduate School of Public Leadership. I didn't quite get that right. But to welcome you on behalf of HJI, I'd like to quickly turn the mic over for a brief welcome by Dean Boyd of HJI.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's really a pleasure to be here today. HJ International Graduate School for Peace and Public Leadership. We have to practice that a few times ourselves too, but that's our new name. So we're so grateful to be here and so grateful to co-sponsor this program with you, this series of programs. Very important topic, and we're so glad to be a part of this. We're also very proud that three of our members of the key presenters today are related to HJI in some way. I know, Jim, you're just beginning your DMin studies. Barbara is close to finishing her MDiv studies, her Master of Divinity. And Kaeleigh, we're proud to say, is the first graduate last May of our Master of Arts in Peace Studies. So it's just wonderful to be able to have you a part of this program today and to help correspond to this. And we're looking, Justin, we're looking at you. We're hoping that you'll come back to us very soon. So thank you very much. Have a great program. Just wanted to say hi and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean Boyd. Yes, I'm now in the doctoral program, and I'm so happy to have been entering HJI as it transitions from a divinity school to graduate school, broadens its mandate, which is now peace and public leadership, which fits the purpose of my graduate studies perfectly. And I'm hoping to contribute to the expansion of the mandate of the graduate school. All right, I'm now going to share my screen as we begin our program. Okay. So today, March 2nd, we're going to have a meeting that should last probably no later than 6:30. We're going to have three speakers on the topic of the implications of God as Heavenly Parent. And our presenters are Justin Okamoto, who is with us, but since he's traveling right now, he was thoughtful and he prepared his comments with the recording that he made earlier in the day, but he will be with us for the discussion. He's with us right now, but he didn't want to be doing his presentation while on the road. So we have his recording. He'll be followed by a second presentation on this important topic by Barbara Robertson. And then we have a respondent with us, Kaeleigh Moffitt. Following the three speakers, we will have a moderated discussion, which will involve both your comments and questions, and also those that are submitted in our chat. I would just like to briefly go through the terms of engagement here. Please be aware that today's participants are not exclusively unificationists. We do have people here from a range of faiths and perspectives, so we want to make sure that everyone feels welcome and included. Our discussion period after the three speakers is a very important, sometimes the most important, often the most important part of our program. We want to encourage you to participate, as has been the case in all our meetings. And there's two ways to do that. After listening to the speakers, and if you want to add a comment or question, you can either use the Zoom function to raise your hand so that the moderator, that's me, can call upon you. And then when you're done speaking, please put your hand down so we aren't confused by whether you want to ask a second question. Or if you prefer not to speak, but simply to write your comment or question in the chat, that's fine. It will be seen there by the audience, and it will be handled and brought into the discussion by the chat moderator today, who is Daniela Weatherall, who's the organizer of our event. This meeting is being recorded, and it will be made available through the HJI. And finally, we'll seek to end our program no later than 6:30 p.m. I just would like to quickly explain to you basically a little bit about Higher Purpose Forum, which was founded in 2019 as an independent educational project of unificationism. For most of our time, we've been discussing and meeting on issues of race and providence in America. We've had about 60 plus meetings so far, and probably 50 of them have been on this topic. And we are well along in developing content in that area, and it's now available for public presentation. We'd be happy to be invited to speak in your community. And then we're also preparing, in addition to that worldview, we are preparing areas of counter proposal. And the specific areas where HGI is developing content are in the topics of building a racially integrated culture. Secondly, the topic of justice and economic democracy. Thirdly, the unity of science and religion. And we're hoping somehow to soon begin work on the topic of the God-centered three-generation family. So this is our counter-proposal being developed for public dissemination. Special thanks to Reverend Gregory Oliver, Jeffrey Kingsley, Christine Edwards, Alan Jessen, Henry Christopher, Roger and Daniela Weatherall, and our steering committee, who have all contributed a great deal to this process since we started 4 years ago. And before we begin today's meeting, I just want to mention very briefly that HJI is having a very important conference, its first international conference on peace and public leadership. That conference will be held virtually from Thursday, April 11th through Saturday, April 13th. It has 8 sessions. There's very important contemporary topics on peace, new religious movements, faith-based organizations, economic democracy, prospects for peace in Israel. Very interesting set of contemporary issues are being addressed by scholars. And the two I'd like to particularly draw your attention to is session 3, Christology and Women, Relevance for Peace, which is directly related to today's topic, and session 7, Economic Democracy as an Essential Component of Positive Peace. That session is being hosted and organized by Higher Purpose Forum, and I will be the moderator for that session. That's a very important opportunity for us to further our expertise on economic democracy. We're having a professor from Syracuse University as a primary speaker. Today's speakers, Justin Okamoto. Justin holds a degree in anthropology from Purchase College, SUNY, which highlighted his interest in cultural dynamics and human relationships. Since 2021, Justin has served as the head pastor of the Belvedere Family Community. His ministry is fostering an inclusive and nurturing environment that emphasizes family, faith, and service. Our second speaker is Barbara Robertson. Barbara is an associate chaplain at Vassar Brothers Medical Center in Poughkeepsie, New York, and she is the co-pastor of the Mid-Hudson Valley Family Church in Berrytown, New York. Barbara earned her bachelor's degree in fine arts and studio arts at the University of California, Los Angeles, and is currently pursuing her master's degree in divinity at HJ International Graduate School. And then our respondent today, Kaeleigh Moffitt. She is the president of Women's Federation for World Peace USA. Kaeleigh was previously the director of Youth and Young Adult Ministry for the Family Federation and was the founding director of the Young Christian Leadership Conference. In April 2001, Kaeleigh joined the Unification Peace Federation USA in the position of congressional liaison. She has a bachelor's degree in business operations management and family science from the University of Maryland and a master's degree in peace studies at the HJ International Graduate School. That concludes our introduction. See if I can stop my share. Thank you for bearing through that. And now I'd like to introduce today's first speaker, who is presenting a course, as I mentioned, by a recorded video, but he will be present with us during the discussion. So Dean Boyd, why don't we start Justin's video at this point?
Hi, everyone. My name is Justin Okamoto, and really grateful to have the opportunity to share with you all on this topic about Heavenly Parent. And for my little section, I'm going to be talking about discovering gender equality. This is more about my own journey of self-awareness and transformation. Yeah, before I share about my own kind of experience, there's a couple things I want to share about. One is about the word bias. Bias refers to a tendency or preference towards a particular perspective, idea, or group, which may affect one's judgment and decision-making. It can be conscious or unconscious and can be influenced by various factors such as personal experiences, cultural norms, and societal beliefs. Bias can manifest in various forms, including racial, gender, political, and confirmation bias. Of course, for this presentation, we're going to be focusing on gender bias, this idea of gender bias, and the kind of opposite of that would be maybe gender equality. Also, bias can have a significant impact on how individuals perceive and interpret information. I think this is a really important point, that how we interpret information, even when we read something, we watch something, we listen to something, the important thing is not what is being read, but how is it being interpreted by us. And our biases can have a significant impact on how we receive things. It says leading to a distorted or incomplete understanding of the situation. So, important question to ask ourselves is, do I have a bias? Bias about, gender, a bias about race, about ethnicity, whatever it might be. I think a lot of us would like to think that we don't have biases, but the reality is that I think we all have certain biases in life. And I think one challenge when we talk about bias is that this word has been politicized a lot. We've used it to kind of attack one another in political sphere. Also, it's been kind of moralized a lot as kind of a, it's bad, it's wrong to have certain bias about things. And you're a bad person if you have bias, and you've got to change if you have bias. But I think these kinds of attitudes towards this, people's biases, is actually a really unhealthy way. It's an unhealthy way to look at bias, and it doesn't really help anybody in the process. One way to look at bias is simply about preferences, right? Some people like pizza, some people like sushi. I'm more of a sushi guy, but I do like both. But yeah, I've got my preference. I would prefer sushi over pizza, right? It doesn't make us a bad person, but it does impact the way that we view life. And that's the important thing, is it's not a judgment on your character, but it is worth kind of looking into how does these biases impact our life in either a positive way or a negative way. And if there are some real major negative impacts to certain biases that we hold, then it might be worth, looking into a more well-rounded perspective about something, right? Another way to look at bias is it is just the lens that we see the world, right? If you are wearing these yellow glasses, you're probably going to see the world in yellow, right? And if you've only ever known what life is like in yellow tinted glasses, then, that's all you're going to see. And who can blame you? That's all you've ever known, right? But the point is, when we're able to become aware of our biases, like, oh, I'm actually wearing these tinted glasses, it gives us the freedom to choose to take them off if it serves us better to have another perspective of life. So I want to talk now, share about my own journey of understanding kind of my own bias around gender. First of all, I want to just say a big part of my journey has to do with this woman right here. Her name is Hakchahan Moon. I would call her Mother Moon or True Mother, whatever you want to call her. But my journey with understanding kind of gender equality between men and women, I would say, is yeah, I can't, it's completely tied to my relationship with Mother Moon. So, I think I, like many people, I always would like to think that I did not have any kind of bias about men and women, about men being any more valuable or significant than women. I think for a long time, I just thought, I was told that men and women are equal, and that's the truth. That's what I believe in. But the thing about biases is it's often not until we examine our own actions and behavior that we realize, only through looking at our own actions and behavior are we able to realize that maybe we do have a bias, right? And for me, it was when Father Moon, who was for many years, he was kind of the central pillar of our movement. He was the one who gave the kind of directions, who made these big proclamations and kind of directed our focus, the movement, what's next, and guiding us on this journey towards this grand goal that we had to bring about a world of peace. But when he passed away, the kind of leadership was passed on to Mother Moon. And I think a lot of people, myself included, while we wanted to have an open mind to unite and embrace Mother Moon's leadership, when she started to share things that sounded different from what Father had said in the past, Father Moon had said in the past, there was this kind of internal conflict. Like, why is she saying that? Why is what she's saying different? And for me, this led to a lot of challenges, a lot of kind of difficult emotions and times that I had to digest, because I couldn't understand why Mother was saying the things that she was doing, saying the things that she was saying. And, it took many years for me to kind of become aware of what was going on inside. And the way that it really changed for me was when I was in Korea, and I had an opportunity to talk with one Korean leader named Reverend Du, and he, we were sitting together in this kind of lounge area, just the two of us, and he started to talk to me about his experiences with Mother Moon and with other leaders, and he started to talk about this experience of many leaders and members of the movement questioning about why Mother was saying certain things that sounded different from Father, and also often this experience that everything that Mother said, we'd have to try to figure out how to justify what she said by connecting it with something that Father Moon had said during his lifetime. And so he kind of just put it right in front of me. Why is it that, Father can say things and we just kind of accept it as the truth. But when Mother says says things, we have to try to find a way to justify it by what Father says. And when he said that, it just kind of really clicked to me that the reality was, I did not see Mother's authority, Mother's, you could say Mother's value as equal to Father's. That I was actually seeing Father's words as holding more weight, holding more authority than what Mother was, than Mother's words. And when I realized this, it was kind of a paradigm shift. I realized that all of my struggles with her leadership, with her words, was not because of what she was saying, but it was because of this kind of bias that I held inside of my heart to value father's words more than I valued mother's words. And when I realized this, it really had me kind of look at myself and really, feel sorry, feel this pain in my heart that I wasn't seeing mother as this daughter of God of equal value to Father Moon. And when I realized that I was kind of doing this, it had me also reflect on where else am I doing this? Is it possible that I might have been holding this bias against other women? And for me, most personally, was with my own wife. And I realized that actually I was being biased, that I valued my time, my energy, my work as more valuable and more important than my wife's time and my wife's energy. And often I would just feel like it was a matter of course that she should, sacrifice what she's doing to support what I'm doing, because what I'm doing in my mind was more important than her, than what she was doing. So when I realized this, I just realized how kind of warped my thinking about men and women had been. And it really became much more clear of a picture when I realized this. And honestly, it helped me to understand so much about my life and so much about my relationship with my wife, about why we had struggled about certain things and why we fought about things and why I hurt her unintentionally, even though I love her and I want to make her happy. But there were many times when I did hurt her because of this kind of unbalanced perspective that I had. And, I'm so grateful because since understanding this, I can definitely say that my relationship with my wife has gotten so much more joyful, more beautiful. This is us celebrating our 11th anniversary. We went to a sauna together, and I can say that I am more happy to be married to her than I've ever been in our 11 years of being married together. And I want to finish with just some quotes from Mother Moon. She says, "Beloved WFWP, that's Women's Federation members, and my fellow women leaders, women are not born just to help or to be protected by men. Rather, we are independent individuals who, as representatives of the other half of God's nature, are meant to make men more complete and manly." And I love this because one thing that I realized is that this gender equality, having more women really, coming into their own as daughters of God, as women leaders, whatever that looks like, it's not just a benefit for women, but it's actually, I think it's even more of a benefit for men, because we get to become more complete. We get to become more manly. And I can definitely say that I feel, I feel like I've become more manly in a sense, since really understanding the equality of women, and especially Mother Moon and my wife. She continues to say, "Centered on the ideal of true love, women are the precious object partners of men's love. In terms of value, men and women are absolute equals. Thus, men and women, united through the original true love of God's ideal, are created to become completely equal in terms of value. Based on true love, they are to share the right of equal participation, the right to the same rank, and the right of mutual ownership of their possessions." So yeah, I love how bold Mother Moon is in really declaring the equality and of participation, of rank, of possessions. And again, what I love about this even more is that this is not about trying to bring men down, but this is coming from a place of true love, of truly understanding the equal value between men and women. Yeah, I think I still have a long way to go. It's not like when we understand our biases that they just completely go away. But I think the first step is really that awareness, and I can say that I'm truly grateful for that kind of awareness that Mother Moon, I feel, has actually brought into my life. And yeah, it's only, I think it only gets, it's only for the betterment of all of humanity. And yeah, I have nothing but gratitude for this amazing revelation about the value of our Mother Moon, of Father Moon, and ultimately of Heavenly Parent. But I want to keep this as short as possible because I know we have some wonderful women leaders that are going to be sharing next. So I'll end it here. And thank you so much for listening, and God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor Okamoto. First of all, thank you for your honesty. It's very refreshing, the honesty that you shared with us. And thank you also for speaking on, I think, my behalf. I think maybe many of us are going through the same set of awakenings or rethinking our biases. And I think you spoke on behalf of I think you're going through this, and we're going through this on behalf of a broader purpose in God's providence. So it's very valuable, the contribution that you've made here today. Now I'd like to introduce our second speaker, Barbara Robertson, the pastor of the Mid-Hudson Valley Church, and she'll present our second presentation. Thank you.
Great. Wow. Thank you, Justin. That was just amazing. So let me share my screen. Okay. So I would like to talk today about the important topic of the implication of God as Heavenly Parent. So, in 2013, our Mother Moon, she asked us to start referring to God as Heavenly Parent. And even though we have always, as unificationists, had the notion that God is, just want to put my timer on here. Sorry. Okay. Even though as unificationists, we always have had that notion that God is a masculine, feminine being. We also really followed that kind of age-old tradition of just referring to God as him or his Heavenly Father. And so when we expand our language, when we shift our language, we also really have to make an internal shift, right? Like, just saying different words bring up different feelings, emotions. They bring up different things in us. So, yes. So I think instinctively, as humans, we can feel the presence of the divine in the loving embrace of the mother. As truly as God is our Father, so truly God is also our mother. The Bible also has many passages that emphasize God's feminine nature, right? God is holding you on his bosom. He conceived you, God referring to you as a sucking child, or born anew, or God, mother receiving mother's comfort. And so when I'm like researching, what am I going to say? I have this very dear in my heart, and but I want to just back it up with more than just my own opinion. And so actually the Gnostics, which is like the first century kind of sect, they really, not to say that they were right about everything, but they had this notion of God as father, mother. And in fact, they have like one of the beginnings to their prayers: from thee, Father, and through thee, Mother, the two immortal names, parents of the divine being. So, yeah, there's this, so I guess when we were referring to God as Heavenly Parent, or when we're looking at the divine principles explanation of God as this kind of masculine, feminine being, I guess I was thinking this is something new, but this is actually something very old. People have realized God's feminine nature. And in that first century, many women, Christians, were preaching, giving communion, and receiving revelations. But by the late second century, virtually all feminine images of God had disappeared from Orthodox Christianity. And the dominion of men over women was accepted as God's given order. So Christianity didn't start out that way, but we definitely went that course. So Genesis says that God created man in his image. This is like a very beautificationist like this quote. Obviously, it represents that God's image is a male and a female image. So if Mother God somehow, disappeared, got lost in the politics and culture of the past, reclaiming her is to acknowledge that we have been missing out on the ways in which God loves us in a fully feminine way, right? How would God, if we were open to us, love us from his feminine side? And that this realization not knowing God as mother has ramifications for our identity. Who am I? The God of the mountaintop, this Father God who speaks from fire, far off, all powerful, just, whose covenant was sealed in male circumcision and an all male priesthood, is a half truth. To find Heavenly Mother is to find rhythm and warmth, comfort, wonder, and awe. Harmony and balance. To expand our language is to shift the way we experience God. So, God the Mother. So, one mystic that I had a lot to say about God the Mother is Julian of Norwich, who lived in the Middle Ages. And she spoke more towards an idea of universal salvation, the God who suffers until all his children are returned home. And she spoke of awakening to our divine potential, our divine beauty. So instead of focusing on getting rid of sin, cleansing, eradicating, destroying sin, and reputing parts of ourselves, it was a stress on growing and awakening to the reality of God within us, that God is immanent in all of us, that we're not called to control, but to stand in awe of the universe, awe of one another, in awe of God, to cooperate with rather than dominate. And then in all of this, there's a sense of coming home. I think when we think of mother, we think of home. And Mother Moon has said at this time that, Mother's role, that Father Moon's role is this restoration, but Mother's Moon's role is this recreation. And so when we, at this time, as we connect to that heart of God, the Mother, we are connecting to that coming home, finding my way home to the beauty and divinity within myself. And if I can see it in myself and I can see it in God, then I can see it in you. So it's really this whole God image. And when we this mother of all things, and then we can see in this very beautiful image how God's ideal can come about. God the Father. So to know God fully is to recognize God in all his or her manifestations. To only know God as justice is to miss God, the God of mercy. To know God only as strength is to miss the God of comfort. So to know only God, Heavenly Father, the masculine nature of God, the God of the only begotten Son, is to miss the God of the only begotten daughter, the God of Heavenly Mother, the feminine God. I think that no one prefers other people to speak their story. I think everyone prefers to speak for themselves. So, can a sighted person tell us fully what it is to be blind? Can a tall person truly know what it is to be short? Can a free person explain what it is like to be enslaved? Surely we could offer intellectual insights, we could offer treaties and truths about these subjects, but more than likely we're going to miss something important, something vital, something essential. Can I know what it feels like to be blind in a sight-focused world, or small and less than in a world that values tall people? Or how to fathom the sheer brutality and repression of an enslaved person when I've only ever read about these things? All human beings desire to be seen and heard, to be known, not in part, but in full. We want to tell our own story, not have someone tell it for us. For when our story is told for us, some things don't come through. The core of who we are is lost. So too, Heavenly Parent longs to speak as Heavenly Mother through his daughter. So we as unificationists, we're very familiar with this diagram. But if we think about what Justin just shared, we can see that actually throughout human history, it hasn't been like this. Actually, it was God, and then husband, and then wife, and then child. Or maybe it was God, Father, Son, with the wife to the Son. And that even as unificationists, we can't really see that we fulfilled this structure, this four-position foundation, if you will, without a slight tilt, right? That we tend to see the husband or the meal or the son as more important than the daughter. So at this age, it's not only about opening up to God as Heavenly Parent, but it's also about receiving divine revelation through his daughter, because only through we receive revelation through his Son, then his Son stands in complete unity with him. And when we receive revelation through his daughter, then his daughter raises back up. This becomes a horizontal plane, and the husband and wife, the male and the female, the brother and the sister, the son and the daughter become equal, become respected and loved. And that becomes the foundation for the kingdom of heaven on earth. Because without fixing the male-female problem, the kingdom of heaven on earth cannot come. Because how can we have a peaceful world that is lacking in respect and love? So, true mother, when I talk about Mother Moon, when I talk about Heavenly Mother or Mother God, I think about this heart to heal, this heart to embrace, this heart to love. And yet, if we are totally focused on Heavenly Father, we're just really kind of up in our head. And healing doesn't really happen in our head. We all need healing. The world is in a place that is so desperately in need of healing. So it's really amazing time as the world is becoming aware of this need to heal, this need to take care of itself, that Mother Moon is here. And so I just say that we just need to own our biases and open our hearts to the healing that our Mother Moon and our Heavenly Mother and our Heavenly Parent wants to bring. And all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. And thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Barbara. Very interesting. I'm wondering, when you refer to the history of Christianity as within the first few centuries becoming male dominated, do you think that was a mistake, or do you think that was just kind of necessary for providential advancement? How do you feel about what occurred in Christianity?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I will leave that question to the theologians. I couldn't say. I mean, I personally would lean towards, I would lean towards it's a mistake. Yeah, there's a lot of theologians on the call. It can speak more to that.
I see Dr. Wilson's on the call, so maybe when we have our discussion, he can help us there. I think I really appreciate it. Both you and Justin have used the term equal value. I think it's really important to add the word value when we talk about equality. It's such a loaded term, and there's certainly a principle shows us that is the case, and yet it does show us that they're not equal in terms of the endowments that God gave us. That we have complementary endowments that are quite different.
Right. It
And
doesn't
so-
need to be the same. In fact,
doesn't
trying
need
to be same has actually oppressed people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So both you and Pastor Okamoto repeatedly use the term equal value, which I think is very helpful in this conversation. Let's turn now to, we're really happy to have Kaeleigh Moffitt as our respondent. Let's turn the microphone over to Kaeleigh.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I really want to thank both Justin and Barbara for their presentations. I took notes, so I will just share my response. I think what came up. First, maybe I just want to speak to what Pastor Justin brought up. And what I appreciate about him is, when we were talking about doing this session, it could very easily turn into a bunch of women talking about this, right? And, the feelings of the growth as a woman, your spirituality as a woman, and how that's reflected. But, I'm the president of Women's Federation for World Peace, so I'm always cautious about how to talk about gender equality. This is such a loaded term, actually, in our society. And part of it has to do with feminism and, the challenges there, which I'm so grateful for the progress we've made. At the same time, we see kind of a skewed view now from a feminist point of view towards men, which is not actually this point of view, which Barbara was speaking to, this Heavenly Parent point of view. So what I appreciate about, Justin's perspective and experience is his journey as a man to still hold on to his value as a man, as a masculine reflection of Heavenly Parent, but also see this equal value in his wife, for instance, or in other women in his life and women's leadership. And for me as a woman leader, it's extremely comforting to hear that. And it gives me hope also for my daughters, because that's one of the things I wanted to share in my response is I have 2 daughters and 1 son. And my middle daughter is a righteous little girl. Somehow she was born that way. And when we sing certain songs, songs that maybe you're like 30 or 40 years old, and we say things like mankind, my daughter, without any prompting, interrupts the singing and says, "Mom, why do they say mankind?" This is my 7-year-old daughter. It's quite a difficult question to answer. She doesn't feel included in that term, actually. So we have these conversations about what it's been like for women in the past, but how we're so grateful for the great, changes that have happened in our society, and especially for the men who have made space for that. So I want to say thank you to Justin, and thank you for the men on this call who are also making space for that. Because I think, Barbara gave a great presentation. I feel that, Barbara, you represented a really motherly embrace in this conversation, which is so important, because I'm sure it can come across a little bit accusing. It's very different in our understanding of the past spirituality. But one of the things I wanted to comment on is I've noticed for my generation that there is a change happening in religious and spiritual practice. People from my generation right now, many of them are turning away from traditional church. They're not going to normal church services. And of course, churches are really concerned about that and trying to figure out how to reach that generation. But instead, what I see my generation turning towards is what you might describe as the more feminine spiritual practices of meditation and yoga and qigong and certain, like, I forget the term, but you have these bowls and you make this beautiful sound with these instruments. It's like a very meditative space. And what I think it's interesting is that this is maybe a phenomenon to pay attention to. I see a spiritual awakening happening in our society right now, something like the reformations of the past that are important to pay attention to, because our spiritual awakening and our growth has risen to a point to have a deeper understanding of our essence and of the essence of our Creator. And the last thing that I want to comment on in terms of these presentations is, I really appreciate, Justin, you made it about your couple, right? And you made it about Father and Mother Moon and how their value is equal, their input is equal. Although it may be different, it's still equal. I think it's important that we look at ourselves, for those of you who are married, looking at you and your spouse. And how do you see the differences in opinion? And I love the little conversation that Jim and Barbara just had, that it doesn't mean it's the same. It just means the value is the same. And when I look at, my husband and I look at our parenting is very different, right? When my husband comes home from work, he goes out and jumps on the trampoline or wrestles with my son, or, that's his energy. That's not my energy, although I try very hard. My energy is to cuddle and to color and to talk with my kids and process the day. And that's how it's made. My couple is made in the image of our Creator. We are both these equal representations of our Creator, and we need both. In fact, if we only had my husband, we wouldn't get a lot done, right? The house would probably be a mess and we'd forget about homework and we'd go, all that kind of stuff. If we only had me, we wouldn't have as much fun and we would be a little more stressed out, to be honest. So you need both. And I'm not saying all men and women are the same, but I'm saying that, looking in your own family, trying to see how you reflect our Creator is how I've come to understand that this idea of a heavenly parent is really something to pay attention to. And the last point of my reflection on this is, Barbara gave quite an interesting perspective on how things have changed over time. I think for me, I'm still learning about that. Actually, there's so much to uncover about this story. But for me, the thing that has awakened in me is my own divinity as a woman. And I'm careful with that term because things like Mother God and feminine divinity, those can be major turnoffs, right? Even for me as a woman leader. There's concepts there, right? But what it means is that my spiritual journey, my spiritual growth can directly be found in my heavenly parent. If I see my heavenly parent as a creator of both a masculine and feminine quality, then my journey is up with God also. In the past, if I'm praying to Heavenly Father, I feel a little bit disconnected, to be honest. I can always go to my Father, but I wonder about my journey as a mother and a wife and a daughter and a sister. Can I find those identities in my Creator and aspire to be like my Creator? With this idea of a God as a heavenly parent, then the answer is yes. I can find my divinity and my essence uplifted in this kind of this understanding of our Creator. So I think there's a lot to unpack here. I'm looking forward to hearing the discussions and the questions, and want to thank Barbara and Justin for really some wise insights shared with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaeleigh. It's nice that you're with us today, and you added a lot here. I was really interested. You say you think you've sensed a spiritual awakening is underway, and you relate it. I think it at least indirectly you've related it to a broader awareness of a feminine type of spirituality. I wonder if you have anything else to say about that very interesting claim you've made.
Yeah, well, it is a claim, but I'd be curious, if other people were to look at what's happening in society, if they would see the same thing. I suspect that it's partly related to the question you asked Barbara earlier. Was it a mistake that, Christianity became so masculinely dominated, which is such a loaded question to ask on this call. I can understand her hesitation.
She backed out of that one, didn't she?
Very safe, very good. But I think it's a response to that. There's nothing wrong with masculine spirituality. I think it's really important we say that. But if we've only had this type of spirituality for so long in human history, it's kind of natural that you maybe develop an aversion to something because you haven't had the full picture of it. So I think it's like a needing to fill the other half, but it's not ideal to only go that way either. The point is these two spheres need to come and integrate together, and then we will have true spirituality.
Wow, we've had lots of discussions, a lot of conversation in Higher Purpose Forum about the next Great Awakening. And I have to say that and some people are claiming that there may well be one already underway. That's a very real possibility, but I didn't hear anyone advise us to look for it in that form. But that's interesting. I think we have to talk about that a little bit more in future meetings.
Sure.
You've been very provocative. All right. Well, thank you very much, Kaeleigh, and thank you, Justin and Barbara, very much.